All right, Brandon, such an honor to have you on the podcast. Like I've told you before, I'm an East Coast guy. So I know any Yankee fan, so I've known who you are for quite a while. And I think one of the things that's so specific for you in this industry that I shot you a note about is, selling something for almost your whole career that isn't necessarily a needs-based product. So I'm so excited to talk about how you've created a need out of that space. But for those that don't know who you are, can you talk a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are?
Well, just one small footnote on what you just said. It's about coming up with a solution-based model of what you're trying to do, whether it be a service or a product. Everything's, it's about adding value, which is you got to come up with ideas of what you could do for someone that they can't do for themselves. That's value. That's the definition of value. What you could do for someone that they can't do for themselves, and whether it be a service, product, and the important part of that value proposition, which most people don't talk a lot about value, is you must really listen and understand your customer, because whatever it is you're trying to sell or provide, a lot of times needs to be brought to that customer or that person the way they need to understand it, hear it, absorb it. Everybody takes in products and services and information differently. And this is why a lot of salespeople or entrepreneurs fail, is because they're caught up in their idea, not caught up in what the customer really needs and really needs to understand about your product, especially when you're doing something entrepreneurial, which is new. Understanding the customer's needs and how to communicate to them is critical. Anyway, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. You're an Oneonta guy with Hamilton College. I'm a Syracuse guy. And, I'm not with Steiner Sports anymore. I left Steiner and I'm now started CollectibleXchange, which is really a form of eBay where people can go on the site and sell and buy, which is amazing. And then we're actually helping people. So when they buy something on a site like that, we're helping them with authentication and helping them make sure what they're buying is real. The Steiner agency is it's what I've been doing for 35 years, literally. And that's helping companies grow using athletes, whether you have a small company or a big company or a sales outfit. I use athletes to do virtual talks, motivation, PR campaigns, marketing campaigns. And I've done thousands of those. Probably been doing that as long as anybody that's doing it in this business. I still love marketing celebrities and players, and the Steiner agency does that. And just one small footnote is I am giving away a free copy of my book. So if you go to CollectibleXchange, you can have any one of my 3 books. I'm sure we'll talk about the different books in this conversation, but if you're an entrepreneur, which I got a feeling this conversation is going that way, you probably you got to have balls. But if you're thinking about repivoting and resetting and refocusing, you may want to buy my last book, which I think I came out with about 1.5 years ago, called Living on Purpose. Yep. If you're a young entrepreneur in high school and college, you probably want to buy, or just getting started with your business, the Business Playbook is money in the bank. It's gold. The nuggets in there are, the key to a lot of the books and the stuff that I write on my blog and my posts on LinkedIn and Facebook are just, it's not telling you what to do. Nobody wants to be told what to do. As we see people running around the country, not socially distancing and everything else, people want to be shown what to do. And that's why it's such a big deal that the president, not to get into a political thing, but it's such a big idea. As a leader, you have to show people what to do, not just tell them what to do. And, just by wearing a mask when you're in public, and, that's the leadership. Leadership is within all of us. And it's just making people feel good, helping somebody else, doing something nice for someone is leadership. We all can display that. And there's a time when I really have a lot of confidence in the young entrepreneurs and young business people, because I think they've got a lot of energy. I think they understand between right and wrong, what maybe we need to go maybe fix this country in a lot of levels, spiritually, the physicality of this country, and not only just the money aspects and making more money, but I think the young Generation Z particularly have a really big idea and a big dream of what they want and what they think this country could be. Not only making a lot of money, being prosperous, but, the feel-good part of it and the helping people part of it.
One of the things that you've written about that I really like, that I think connects to this very much, is the idea of significance versus success. And the idea that, I just remember, when I went to the Houston Dynamo and I became a senior executive in sports business, the more disconnected I became from my reps in the front line, the less successful I actually felt, the less excited I felt to become in the work every day. And one of the biggest teachings that I brought into this website was I wanted to make sure that I stayed connected to the young salesperson, that I could help shepherd and guide the young salesperson. That the higher up on the ladder I actually got, the farther I got away from those people, the less personal success that I felt. So can you talk a little bit when you start thinking about, because there's a lot of pressure in sports to take a very direct route. account executive, senior account executive, manager, director. Hopefully someday you either get shipped off that. Can you talk a little bit for especially the younger people who feel a lot of pressure to go up that way, you know, what that difference between significance and success actually is?
Well, boy, there's a lot of directions I would take with that answer. And I've been on the significance for success versus ultimately you want to be extraordinary. And for people listening out there, I use the sprinter versus the marathon thought. And what you don't want to be is a sprinter. I mean, there are a lot of people that are sprinters. When you think about it, there's nothing wrong with being a sprinter. You know, you get on, you know, you get in your position and you go as fast as you can. I mean, there's not a lot of strategy towards being a sprinter. I mean, you go as fast as you can. You see the flag is down 40 yards or 30 yards, whatever it is. And your goal is just to go as fast as you possibly can to get to that mark and win. But really, you know, the marathon, which you really, a lot of you hear, you know, life's a marathon, business is a marathon, there's so much more strategy. You can't just go all out sprint. You got to pace yourself. You got to understand the environment. There's the air, got to keep yourself hydrated, how much you're going to eat. You got to make sure you're well rested. It's a longer haul and you got to kind of keep an eye on the competition. You got to keep an eye on how you're going to position yourself to win this race. And I look at myself more as a marathon runner, and I think strategy is critical. I sent this to an NBA player yesterday, this thought. I said, you know, he's supposed to come to my gym and work out. And, you know, he said, you know, I'm not going to make it today. I said, what you mean is you're sleeping in. And I said, just so you know, Kobe wouldn't be sleeping in if he was all, I'm just saying, like, I'm going to go to the gym with Kobe's spirit. Right? And I said to him, I said, it's not really how good you are, but how good could you be? You know, what's the best possible thing that can happen to you in your future? Like, have you thought about how good you could really be? And I think that, you know, a lot of times you get caught up when you goal set. It's really a very, very slippery slope when you start setting goals, because you got to constantly reset your goals once you hit them. And it's not so hard hitting your goals. The hard part is resetting them and pushing yourself even to another level. And I think the question you want to start asking yourself is, who is the best at what I do? Who does what I want to do and is great at it? Because you must know what you're competing against, because in life, you really have to want to compete. Now, a lot of people say you're competing against yourself, but I just want to know, if you want to be extraordinary, nobody remembers somebody who's pretty good. You remember the best teacher you ever had in grade school. You remember the guy, even the garbage person who comes pick up you. You remember the guy that was smiling, went the extra distance, never left a mess, checked to see if you needed anything else, the crossing guard who not only crossed you, but remembered your name. You remember the people that are extraordinary, that go out of their way, that do it better than anyone else. And that's the question you got to ask yourself. Like, I never had an interest in being successful. Nobody remember. I mean, successful was just getting up this morning, getting out of bed. That could be considered success. But extraordinary is somebody who wants to be the best that ever was. And we remember those people. What also comes with extraordinary comes other opportunities to do all kinds of things. And the problem is, once people have success, they think that's the entry point to start doing all kinds of things. And it really isn't. And you see a lot of people fail. But when you're extraordinary, when you're the best that ever was, it's amazing. People just want a piece of you. And it's amazing what comes at you. But in order to do that, it's a marathon. There's no sprint in becoming extraordinary. And listen, it takes a lot of drive, motivation, energy to be extraordinary, because you got to blow past success. You got to blow past significant, because part of being extraordinary, a huge part of it is being significant. It matters what you did. It matters what you said. It matters the process that you went through. So to answer your question, just in one final thing, I call it POP. That's my favorite expression. And that's progress on process. Most people are trying to figure out how to have a better month. They're trying to figure out how to make the money that maybe they saw somebody else make. But really what you want to ask is that, what was their process? And how can I improve my process? So you always have to have POP, and you keep a list of all the things that you can do to improve your process. Because if you're not progressing on your process, which is POP, you're probably headed to maybe mediocrity. Maybe if you get lucky enough, you can be successful, but nothing more, nothing less. And nobody's going to remember you. No way. If you're somebody who's never satisfied with your process and always looking for an edge, how can I eat a little better? How can I get one more call in today? How can I get to work a little faster? How can I get along better with my bosses and find out what they need to help? You know how many people are sitting home right now on their butts? You know, they're collecting they've been furloughed, they're getting unemployment. Woe's me. But what good is that doing you? Have you thought of calling your boss, who, imagine the pressure of your boss, he or she having to furlough you and unemployment, saying, listen, I know I'm unemployed, but how can I help? What else could I do? I came up with an idea. Because at some point, this is all going to turn around, but that's how your mindset should be every day. People don't forget people like that. But how many people say, well, they're not paying me, I'm not doing anything. Why? What good is sitting home? All you're doing is flatlining. So progress on your process, even if somebody's not paying you, because you should want to do your job, regardless of what the pay is. You should like your job. And if you're not liking and loving what you're doing and don't really want your team and company to win, even though you can't wait a few months till you get brought back, then you probably should be looking for something else. And that's okay too.
No doubt.
But progress on your process.
So
even when no one's looking, even if they're not paying you the extra money, well, they ain't paying me no more money, then I ain't doing it. Whoa. It isn't about them. It isn't about your boss. It isn't about the company. Are you getting better? Are you going the distance regardless? Because it's a marathon. And if you start letting all these other situations dictate your run, it's going to be a short run.
Well, I'd say especially when no one's looking. But I think, my next question to that is, process is become a big buzzword in the industry, especially in sales. People always talk about process. What does process mean to you? Because I think those individual definitions of what a process is really important, because I hear a lot of reps, they hear on my site all the time when I write about it, process. And I think it's important. I think everyone's kind of got this one of those words that everyone has their own definition.
Relationships. I mean, I love, there's a book, Og Mandini. I give it out to every friend and giving out hundreds of copies, the greatest success in the world. It really is understanding that just making a lot of money isn't extraordinary. Okay, you make a lot of money and you come home, your family's gone, your wife took the clothes out of the closet. How successful are you? So, when you talk about process, you have to look at all the things, all the grains of sand is what equals the beach. So, you have to look at your rest. You got to look at your energy level, the consistency of your clarity, of your ideas. Are you resourceful? If you're playing the score, you're probably in trouble. If there's a shot clock in your office, got to go. You said 43 minutes. If you got a shot clock, I'll sit here and talk to you for 4 hours and probably shouldn't, but I'll be so ingrained in this conversation, I'm not going to pay attention to the clock. If you decide to do something, it's amazing how many people have shot clocks. So, I always told we're sitting there with my kid, we were watching a game, it was like 11-0 in the 8th inning. And my son said, Dad, let's go. I said, go. Now we're going to see who's really playing this game. Yeah. Because they're probably not going to come back, I'm sure, but who's playing the game till the whistle blows? Yeah. And that's how you need to be in your office. Maybe you didn't make your numbers. Obviously, things are a little tough for the second quarter, but you see the people, the winners right now, when I call them, and I got to wait 2 days to still get them on the phone because they're that busy. Because anybody in this environment knows now, it's not easy. I've got to make 5 calls, what I normally would do with 2. I got to make 20 emails out to do what I normally would get in 3 or 4 emails. You got to quadruple, and you got to be able to have that energy. So process, I want to make more calls. Yes, I want to make more sales, but do you have the energy to do it? Are you well rested to do it? Do you have the clarity? Have you been working out? And also, it's not who you know, what you know, but what you know about who. Are you taking the time? Because relationships are about seeing people for who they really are, knowing who they are. So are you taking the time now to realize who some of the most important relationships that you maybe have or want to have, and instead of just trying to sell them, really get to know them? So I had a client, I don't want to mention his name, but give you an example. He's doing a big fundraiser last week, and I posted it, I helped him out, whatever, and it's not working. So I asked him, like, on Friday, how's it going? He goes, we're not doing that well. It's not the result I wanted. Now, Memorial Day weekend, most people are barbecuing. You know what I'm barbecuing? I'm barbecuing up some ideas. So on Monday night and on Monday morning yesterday, I emailed him and said, this is not acceptable. I got to come back to you with some ideas. You have time to do a call. It's Monday on Memorial Day at 6 in the morning. This morning, I come in with a memo of 6 ideas that I have that can make his fundraiser better. I can have more input and have more people participate. He's like, Brandon, I can't believe a Tuesday after Memorial Day weekend, you call me first thing to help my fundraiser. You're not getting anything out of us. Yeah, but it's important to you. It's now important to me. We got to kill this. Now, what's the message? I mean, the message is, I see you. What's important to you is important to me. You got to know who's important. You got to know what's important. You got to know what's important to who's important. And you got to do it every day. And that's the problem. We get scattered. Know who's important, know what's important for who's important, and do it every day.
I think
Tuesday morning, I have a full agenda, yet I'm going to do a call about a fundraiser that I'm going to completely recreate a focus with and help him quadruple the amount of money he's raised. I know it's going to be important to him. Am I getting anything out of it? No, I don't. But I know it's helping him. And you know, listen, if you're in, be in. If you're going to help somebody, help them.
I think you just gave the greatest group sales advice I've ever heard to a group sales rep, you know, as they continue to monitor the activity or the success of one of the groups they're creating. But I want to touch on that because you talked about it really quick at the beginning, is this idea of value. And I think that for you ties a lot into customer success. And, you know, for me, one of the things I talk about all the time, because my background wasn't in sports before I got in sports, it was in executive consulting sales, where if I was selling research and paper and books. So if I didn't solve a problem for someone and I was just fighting for a budget line item, I was screwed. Or if I was just passing along information, I was screwed. So I think what's really important to understand, especially in sports, where we're not necessarily a need, especially in tickets or memorabilia or whatever it is, it doesn't necessarily fill a need. How do you make sure that you either create a need or create a solution that has real value for someone? Because I look back on your career and a lot of the stuff that you've done actually really has done that. It's taken something that people already know, but it's created a way for people to feel like they understand it or feel like they need it or feel like they want to be a part of it.
Well, the first thing is I wouldn't let anybody out in the street try selling something so they understood exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
So you talked about somebody who's selling tickets, and I was talking to a sales group at a stadium for a prominent team that was selling tickets, and I'm like, "What do you do for a living?" I asked them, "What do you do for a living? Let's get the board out. Let's talk about what you do." "Well, we sell tickets." "Okay, sell tickets. What else do you do?" "Oh, well, we sell packages, group packages. Oh, we also sell tickets with food. And we also sell, you know, we have this special night with this fireworks night." And, you know, "Oh, really? That's what you do?" "Yeah, we sell tickets, we sell sweets." "No, that's not what you do. You provide an opportunity for a break, for people to forget about work and have enjoyment. You provide entertainment. You provide interpersonal and family relationship. People take their family. I take a kid to a game, my son, that's the stuff they're going to remember forever. You keep families together. You provide the breakthrough of that, not just talking about business and a business relationship, but you have some commonality. You provide that opportunity for business people to get together. You provide groups of friends to have a medium and a place to go that's safe and fun to get together 20, 30, 40 times a year. You have a major impact on how people's relationships and our communities work. You create a community. You're supporting a community. To be a fan of the Dallas Cowboys or the Yankees is a community. And you're supporting that community. You're helping enrich that community. So the first thing you got to do to answer your question is understand what you do. If you're just selling a widget, go work for the post office. You know, you can sort the mail out. Those people are very important, by the way, and I'm not downplaying that. But I'm like, hey, understand what you do. And really understand, like, if you're talking to somebody that's a high up executive, let's say, at a company, I'm like, hey, how often do you get to sit down and really talk to your customers? How often do you get to sit down and talk with your salespeople? Having a suite on a yearly basis that you could sit with customers where you're approachable, you could talk in a casual environment. What's the value of that? And being able to do that 10 or 12 customers at a time. What's the value of sitting in a seat, you running around the country, but you know you have these tickets and going to 10 games with your kids and having those 3-4 hours of uninterrupted time? What's the value of your father-son, father-daughter relationship? Is there a price you can put on that? Are you worried about the price of these tickets? Or are you worried about the increased value of the most important relationship you have in your life, which is your family and your customers? That's the creative selling aspect that you have to enforce with everything you do. You have to really look at all the benefits of what you provide and all what you do and bring that all together. And again, it's not who you know, what you know, but what you know about who. It goes back to really understanding the value, not of what you're providing only, but what the customer needs to receive. You know when you walk in someone's office and the person hasn't been home in 3 weeks because they're working like a dog. You know when you're talking to somebody who lives and dies for their team and all they really want to do is be able to sit in a place and go with all their friends. That's their big thing on a Sunday. So you got to really understand the customer you're talking to, understand the value, the different value points you can create, and understand how it relates to that customer. And that's takes a little time, but you know, at the end, when I meet someone, and here's the mistake that I think a lot of people make. You meet a celebrity, you meet a rich person. First thing you think, oh, wow, I can get a lot of that person. That's a really important person. That person knows a lot of people. It's amazing what I can get. What I think about when I meet that kind of person is, what can I give? What value can I provide? What can I do for that person? Because regardless of your wealth and your status, everybody needs help. Everybody needs support. Some people are better asking for it than others. Your job is to figure out the support and the value that a potential customer needs. And everything else will work out. And it's amazing how many people, I work with a lot of athletes over the years, thousands, hundreds of them, but it's amazing. They meet an athlete and the first thing is they're thinking about asking them for something, as opposed to figuring out giving them something that's relevant, that could really make a little bit of a difference. Yes, that person's rich, but they still got problems. They still got some things that they can't get to. And if you can help make their life easier, save them some money or help them make some money or do something for their kids, that stuff wipes everything out. It's kryptonite, baby. It takes you down. Problem solving one-on-one is like kryptonite. You got to take that call. You got to want to have a relationship. Nobody's getting rid of anybody that's a problem solver. So be a solution-based business person.
Yep.
And don't be afraid to pivot, because sometimes your solutions aren't always right on track. You got to listen, because sometimes when you listen to your customers, you realize that your solution is a little bit off course and needs to just be adjusted.
How do you really listen to someone too? Because I think that's what's really important in everything we're talking about, because we teach a lot of reps what overall value means. Then all of a sudden they're on the phone talking to a family about, a divorced father who's taking their kids to the game. That doesn't necessarily have the same value to a family. And so when we talk to a lot of younger sales reps, especially, and we talk about everything that you just talked about, from what they're really getting out of tickets, one of the things that they don't do still, though, is really listen, like really truly understand what that person needs and how you can create that solution for them. They're so impatient in wanting to get the information out. How do you really listen to someone? Because I think that's such an important skill for people to be able to learn.
I do it a little differently. I break it into two parts. One, I'll play back a conversation. When I go to bed every day, I think about the people I've talked to, and a lot of times, because I'm so amped up, a lot of times in a meeting or at a pitch, and I'll play back what I saw in that person's office. I'll play back what some of the things that person said, because sometimes is what I thought you said, and then is what you meant, and then is what, but then when I actually put it all together, I'm like, wow, that person's struggling, or wow, that person's got some issues that maybe I can help them with. And then the other thing is, in today's world, a couple of clicks and a pick. The other day I went into this Zoom call and it killed me, because one of the first things the guy said to me was, "You know who I am, right? You know where I played football, right?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know shit. I'm a lazy shit. I did nothing. I didn't even think. I wasn't sure this guy was going to be on the phone call, but I should have known better. He ran the company, and I should have known everything about this guy. So I already dropped the ball hard on my foot, broke 3 toes. But at the end of the day, you can go click and pick. You can go find out a lot about somebody when you go poke around the social, you get a feeling for what's going on. And then you can just ask. And then, for me, like, some people are better than others, where they can slow the conversation down and just really listen and ask by asking them some pivotal questions. I hate when some people come in and ask me really pre-contrived, trivial questions, acting like they're trying to get to know me. That shit doesn't really move me, but for some people, maybe it does. But I like having a conversation with somebody, letting that person take the lead in the conversation, which is very important for young salespeople. Let the person you're working with take the lead in the conversation and really try to understand where they're trying to go. There's some pivotal questions you can ask besides going on social media and looking them up. And one of them is, a lot of people say, what's keeping you up at night? Okay. What's getting you up in the morning? When you get up in the morning, what's the most exciting thing that you're facing with these days? And tell me something good about, what's going on with your kids. People always love bragging about their kids and getting to understand how deep, because, there are 2 types of people. They're the incredible parents that are in deep. When a kid moves his left foot, you move your right. And there's some people that are good parents, but, not as deep. And the ones that, there are parents that are really in deep with their kids. And if you can figure out a way to kind of tap into that, bam, it's important.
It's critical. I think, one of the things that you talk about with 2 clicks and the pick is one of the things that's been really remarkable about watching you over time is your transformation into television and digital and social. And it's been really remarkable to see you continue to create relevance and add value to people's lives. How do you think about social, and how do you think, maybe putting yourself in a young ticket sales rep shoes, how do you think they can be using social media to help increase value? And again, I'll give some context. A lot of time in sports, we spend a lot of time on the internal culture, and that's what a lot of people sell out. That isn't necessarily what gets an executive to purchase tickets, right? Like, I think it helps give some context to what a rep does, but it doesn't help sell tickets. So how do you think about value from a social standpoint, and how can sales reps potentially start thinking about how they can use social?
Well, the first thing I try to figure out what other value the tickets can have to that person other than personally is always the thoughts. But when I go on social media of a company or a particular executive, I'm trying to see if those tickets could be a promotion. If they've got many employees, many customers, they can get spread out. Can I help put together a contest? Can I help put a promotion together? Whoever comes up with the best idea that actually gets put into play, wherever leads the sales that month, just real simple stuff. And then I'll do some add-ons where I'm like, listen, why don't we do a promotion, but the person who wins this contest gets to meet this player at the game and does a meet and greet, or has this player come to the suite with you and your friends and your family. So a lot of times you need a tail on the dog, but if you're spending a couple $100,000 on a suite, another $5,000 for the athlete or $10,000, that athlete's already in the ballpark, may work. I think, to me, back to the transformation is, I love when people keep telling me all this stuff that I can't do. I basically had to take college English like 3 times. I was a complete idiot. I had almost a 0 on my SATs in English. Yet I've written 3 books, 2,000 blogs, and had a TV show for 12 years, radio show. And I was the idiot in the family, but I just love when people keep telling me. So what I did is, the social media was really hard, I'm not going to lie. And I run into a lot of friends that are my age that just don't want to dabble with it. And I'm just not going to let somebody or something bully me over. I mean, how hard can this freaking thing be? I mean, it took me a long time to work my VCR. I'm not going to lie. I still can't work it. Thank God everything got digital, because I never could work the sucker. I never could work my answering machine. I'm pretty close to an idiot on these kinds of tech stuff. But what I did on the social media is the same thing I did when how I got through college. I found the smartest people and became really good friends with them. When I was struggling in college, and I had an accounting degree, and I was taking intermediate, and I called home and I told my mother I wanted to come home at Syracuse, because I think I've been studying for 2 months, and I had taken this test that day, and I thought I got a 0. I studied for 2 months. I never studied that hard for a test. I walked out of the test, I thought I got a 0. And I said, Mom, I can't do this. And I ended up getting an 8 on the test, an 8 out of 100, which was a C, which is really messed up. I don't want to get into that with the teacher. I don't know why we give a test where an 8 is a C, obviously trying to trick me or whatever. But I went to the library the next Friday night as I started studying for the next test. It was a Friday night, gorgeous night, big party in my frat house. I knew I couldn't study. And I found these 4 geeks, probably the smartest people in my accounting class, a 4.0. And I said, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing in the library on a Friday night? You guys are the smartest kids in the class. Like, well, having fun. We're enjoying ourselves. Like, you guys are weird. But I said, listen, do you think I could join this group? Because I could use some help. And for fun, for shits and giggles, they tutored me, which had to be complete giggles, because obviously I was a slow learner. And I said, look, you come to my frat party, you need some beer or whatever it is, come and hang out with me. So we ended up being part of the study group, and they actually ended up helping me get through accounting. Still friends with them to this day. So when I got into the social media thing, and I realized I was struggling to still turn on my computer, let alone figure out how to create apps and how to do LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, I went to speak at this Generation Z Summit, and I met all these, it was 800 kids between the ages of like 15 and 20, smart kids. And after I was signing my books, which was incredible, I told my wife I'd be home in 2 hours. I was home in 6 hours later, 3 hours I was signing books. Every kid must have lined up for a book. And as I met these kids, I'm like, I got to make friends with these kids. They need my help. I need their help. And reverse mentoring. And what I tell the younger kids is like, stop selling yourself short. Listen, you probably don't have a lot of experience. Yeah. You're going to need some guidance, maybe how to go get that ring for the girl you want to ask to marry. And you may need some guidance of, how maybe you want to get into this and that. Life's an experience game, but you're bringing a lot of value. This is all this social media, digital marketing. Offer it up. There's a lot of older people that need the help. Share it. take the time to explain it. And in that process, I mentor those kids on some of the back end stuff, the hiring, firing, cash flow, finance, how to borrow money. I got to tell you, it's the best thing I ever did. I have a group of 6, maybe 8 kids that are all teenagers. Now they're getting close to being 19 or 20. They're at my house. We're playing basketball. Like one night I went to my wife and said, we're going to the diner. The diner? It's 11:30 at night. You're not going to sleep? I'm like, well, these kids are hungry. That's, you know, these kids at 11:30, we're going to the diner. This is what I'm, you know, and that was like how I really learned about YouTube that night. We got into like an hour conversation about the relevance of YouTube. I never gave YouTube any respect and think it was a moneymaker and how important those videos were. So I think if I was talking to young kids in a session right now, I would say, first of all, don't underestimate your talent. Granted, you don't have the experience to maybe be a CEO tomorrow, and don't be rushing to start your own entrepreneur project. You do need some experience. It's not going to take that long, but it's, again, the marathon. You know, don't just jump in because you have a good idea. There's some experience you need. But there's some good mentoring, good tips you can offer. You got real value that a lot of older people, when I say older people, most people over 45, don't have the social media, digital marketing, and all the stuff that goes online, experience that's needed, and they're probably never gonna. Just the other day, I called my LinkedIn guru, who's already started like 2 different companies. I think he's 20. I've been friends with him for about 5 years, since he's 15. And said, you know, I need some help with my LinkedIn. I mean, I can't ask my wife. I can't ask my friends who, oh, what's LinkedIn? I'm not, if you're not on LinkedIn, I mean, in business, I mean, what are you doing? But meanwhile, you know, the kid straightened me out and showed me what I needed to do.
Yeah, well, I'm 5'7", and so I have a huge Napoleonic complex. So I'm the same way. When people tell me that I can't do something, that's usually the moment when I'm like, okay, now I'm absolutely going to figure out how to be able to take this on. And I think one of the things that you talk about that's really important is it takes some humility, though, to be able to ask people and say, I'm not good at this. I need to get better at it. And, you know, I go back to, you know, when I was at CEB, you know, the company I was at before I was in sports, I really struggled my first 3 months when I was there. And it's great to read books, right? And it's great to read blogs, and it's great to read a lot of these other things. But the best thing that I ever did was my boss made me find the 50 people that were doing my job the best in the company, and sitting down and spending an hour with each of them, and the humility it took to be able to ask them that, because like I said, Napoleonic complex, a lot of pride, the humility it took to ask that, but I never learned more than that. So I think a lot of times in sports, we start to think like, well, who else can I find in the industry? Who else can I find there? But man, if you're selling for the Yankees, go find the 2 or 3 people that are selling the best for the Yankees. Ask what they're doing. Ask what their environment is like what are you doing to be able to find success? And I think a lot of times we want to go really broad when that happens, like, because if we go broad, then the ask isn't as humiliating in some ways. But a lot of times, whoever's doing what you do specifically or what you need to learn specifically, the best are going to be sometimes the toughest people to be able to ask.
Maybe. I think it's amazing how many young people I ask, like, so how long you living in your house? Oh, 20 years. So you're 20 years old, you lived in one house. Yes. Do you know what your neighbor does? Like the person whose house is next to yours. Do you know what he does for a living? No. Do you know what your uncle does for a living? No. Do you know what your aunt does for a living? No. I'm like, you can't even network with your relatives. These are people that have seen you in a diaper, in a crib. I mean, who doesn't want to help you than your neighbor who's seen you grow up since a little toddler? But it's amazing how many people that have come, all my kids' friends. I played basketball with all of them. I have an indoor court at my house. I've played with every one of my kids' friends in high school, junior high school, college. None of them said, Mr. Steiner, can we sit down and talk a little bit about what you do? Now they're all getting out of college. Oh, now they want to pick up the phone. I'm like, listen, if you were on my team, you're passing me the ball. We have like 3 hours of real time together. We're on a run. We're winning some games. What better time to say, can I ask you a couple of questions? 0. And that's the stupidity that I think, that missed opportunity. It's not like you have to go far to network. And I talk a lot about that in the first book, but you know, networking is a contact sport. It's really about who you know, what you know about who, but start with the people you spend money with, your family, friends, and it's not hard. And those are simple little things. If the people that are closest to you don't want to help you, then man, you got a problem. But nobody can help you better than the people that know you, your friends, family, neighbors. At least let them know you're selling tickets. Let them know what you do and how they can help you if they come across a situation that maybe somebody's looking for something that they can help you with. I can't even line up the amount of people that have helped me throughout my life. It would be 95 from Florida to California. But, listen, I think, to me, I'm just an amazing, I think there's two parts to my game. It's like, I'm an amazing asker for help.
Yep.
And I'm an amazing person to give help. I'm always looking to give help, and I'm not afraid to ask for help. And I just cannot believe, and when you look at my social media, by the way, it's amazing how many people, if you actually read the comments, that people will pop up. Oh, Brandon, I worked with you at that hospital back in 1981. Oh, Brandon, I went to Syracuse with you. Oh, Brandon, I was in the sorority you used to cook for. Oh, Brandon, I worked for you at the Hard Rock. So that's the beauty of today. You have Facebook, LinkedIn, and link in with all these people. When I go on a plane, I tell my wife, I'm not watching a movie. I go all my contacts, all my social media. I reach out to 200-300 people in a 2-3 hour car ride, in a 2-hour plane ride. And I see people there. I'm like, what good is that doing you? Like, if you want to have a database, you can't just use it when you need something. You got to reach out and check in on people. And it takes time. It's a lot of time, but you have the time if you choose to. I mean, you choose to. You get on a train, you go to work. What are you doing? Nothing. It's amazing how much time you waste, and now you really see it, because now what's your excuse? Yep. Now that you're not commuting back and forth and you have a lot more free time, what are you doing with it?
Well, there's going to be so many people that get out of this COVID-19 fog that we're in and are not going to, one of the things I always talk about on my website is this is either an excuse or an opportunity. And there's going to be so many people that walk out of this and are actually probably going to be somewhat fearful about getting back into the office, because they've literally sat on the train with their head back like this for the last, couple months right now. Whereas, there's a lot more people, well, not a lot more, but there's those people that it's going to be Christmas morning when they get back, right? Because I got to talk to this person. I got to talk to this person. I talked to my 2 neighbors about being able to get back. And now I got to make sure I put the right ticket package in front of them. And,
well, I don't know if there is a get back. I don't know how soon that's going to be. I mean, there's the saying of getting back, but I think a lot of offices are going to let you continue to work remotely. Yep. So the mental gym is critical, because you are going to have to be a self-starter. You are going to have to self-motivate. You are going to have to manage without having a big fanfare around you, without having a manager on your back, without having other people to feed off of. And that's hard. That's not for everybody. You got to recognize that, because if you don't have that fanfare around you, you need to start working on your mental strength, your mental ability to keep yourself motivated even when nobody's looking. And for some people that's hard, and you have to make that adjustment, and you must pivot and play the game within the game. You got to go create the competition. You got to somehow keep in touch with a bunch of people. Hey, what was your sales today? Or find things that are going to keep your energy up, because my biggest fear as a boss, letting people work from home, I think there's a lot of people that are even more successful working from home, saving the commute time, enabling them to do the things that are important to them. But those are people that are accountable, and those are people that know how to get stuff done and can get themselves highly motivated to work on their own. But a lot of people really struggle mentally without having those support systems around them. And that's the stuff that's going to be a real challenge for bosses and managers around the country.
So one question for me. So I was actually, this just reminded me of a conversation I was having with someone the other week when, they actually asked a really smart question when I was talking to a sales rep for actually a Major League Baseball team. And he said, we just got into the conversation, and he said, what gets you up in the morning? What gets you excited? And I was like, I've been waking up, but I've been waking up since I become an entrepreneur at 6 a.m. every morning. And he was like, you're an entrepreneur. You don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. Why do you wake up at 6 a.m. every morning? And I think that's part of starting and getting going and getting into your routine and doing things that are going to make you immediately proactive and positive. Part of it for me is I want to get work done so I can walk, my stepkids to school every morning, because I want that opportunity to be able to do that. Yes, go. Take your 20.
Time out.
Yeah.
Every time you stay in bed past the point of when you wake up, you're just postponing your dreams, and you're postponing the accomplishment of your goals that much longer. Yep. If you're in bed longer than 5 minutes after you wake up, the first place you need to go is to some career counseling and find something that's going to get you a little more excited to get up in the morning.
Yep.
Like I see people, I had a hard time getting out of bed. Like, something? Really? Sorry. I don't get up in the morning. I spring up.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, maybe I talk about my first 90 seconds, like, getting your MVP list. And it's always important to know who's important, what's important, and know what's important to who's important. And it's also important to get your MVP list together, your most valuable priorities. What I do in my first 90 seconds, I go with my most valuable priorities. I'm thinking about who's important, what they're going through, making sure that I don't forget during the day. Somebody's going to get a test, somebody's not feeling well, somebody's going through something. And I also want to put my not to-do list. My not to-do list, especially when you're working home, you got to be careful. And you got to be careful because people will drudge you and take you. And I don't have time for that. I don't have people to start sucking out the blood that isn't going to be productive, isn't going to be effective, isn't going to be positive. So you need to put those two things together. To me, I'm putting that together in about 5 minutes. I'm springing out of bed. Now, I do take time to sit and think, ponder. So usually after I wake up, I go down to my gym. And I will take 15, 20 minutes sometimes just to think about some different ideas, send out some quick emails, whatever it is. And then I get into the physicality of, doing a workout. I'm not a fast, I want to be really clear about this. Like in the morning, I think there's a lot of ways to go about the start of your day. I just don't think you laying in bed for a long time is really effective. I just want to be clear about that. I don't have a problem with waking up, getting out of bed, doing yoga or doing some kind of meditation or getting right into the workouts or whatever it is. But, get into a routine, get on with your day and be effective, which means do those things that are going to help you be more productive. Great. You don't have to jump out of bed and start getting stuff done, although there's nothing wrong with that too, I think. So I start my day off relatively slow. I don't meet, even like originally, we had a Zoom call for a couple of hours earlier this morning. I don't love doing that. That's probably the earliest I would do. I don't do breakfast meetings. No, I don't want to start I have other stuff I like to start my day off with that I generally don't do breakfast meetings. I'm not one of these guys at this point, and not for a while, going in the office at 7 a.m. But I get more done because I'm prepared for what I want to get done. I'm organized, I'm strategized, I know what's really important. I got my MVP list together. It's amazing. Like I always can tell the quality of an employee when they go on vacation. First, I get the calls with the unfinished business, which pisses me off. And then, the lack of, I can't believe like you went on vacation and 3 days before you go on vacation, why wouldn't you send an email and say, next week I'm going to be out. If you need something, I'm going to be here till Friday. If not, while I'm gone, here's who you should call. But in case of something open-ended I may have forgotten about, I send out an email like on Tuesday before I'm going away. So I get killed on Wednesday and Thursday, but already Friday night I can move towards my vacation. Little things like that. But I always can tell with an employee who's got their act together is they go on vacation for a week. And I send them a couple emails during the week, and I'm getting those responses like at 11 o'clock on Monday morning when they get back. That is a loser for me. That's a losing proposition. I'm really not that much interested there. And it's just the way it is. I mean, as soon as I see that, I'm like, that's a losing. To me, like you've been on vacation, you haven't planned 2 hours on Sunday night when you get back to go through emails on the flight home. I'm not saying you should give up the last day of your vacation, but somewhere after dinner on Sunday, you got to start thinking about what you're walking into, what's going on the last week, and where the open holes are. If you're actually somebody who cares about what you're doing and somebody who actually is planning tomorrow to win.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times, especially on vacation, it's trying to find 10, 15, 20 minutes a day just so I can at least try to keep up, even if it's just reading emails and not writing back.
Maybe, I think it's really important to get off the grid. Now, everybody has differences, depending on your boss situation, but if you can't get off the grid a couple times a year for at least, like I tell my wife sometimes, like I'm going to get off the grid for the whole week. I try to do that once a year. And I'm not working for money anymore. I could just never work, whatever. But you're in it to win it. But 1 week a year, I want to get off the grid. Best week, I wish I could do it more, but I know I can't. And then on other vacations, I try to get off the grid for anywhere between 2 and 4 days. I know I'm not going the whole week because the problem is once you start checking your emails, whether you're not doing anything or not, it starts taking your mind elsewhere and it's going to cause you not to relax. So even if you take a 3-4 day off the grid, but the way to do that is to prepare and strategize.
Sure. So
if you're going away on a Friday, send out that email on Tuesday and say, listen, I'm going to be off the grid starting Saturday morning through Tuesday night. I'm not going to be able to respond. So if there's something you need, either tell me now, tomorrow or Friday, or call me next Wednesday. And it's amazing how many people respect that. Why? Because you've given them a choice. You didn't just basically blow out on Friday, or I'd send you an email on Saturday, get some office return. You gave them a choice, respect. Listen, I want to make sure I don't leave you in a lurch. So if something does happen during those couple of days, you could call this person, but I'm here for 3 days now. And more than likely, if you can't wait 2 days for me to get back to you on Wednesday, it's the same thing I tell people all the time. It's like, you know, who's important? Oh, I do this for my family. I do this for my wife. I do this for my husband. Really? Leave your cell phone home on date night. When was the last time you went out with your spouse or your kids and didn't take your phone and said, honey, you have your phone with you? Because we're going on a date night. My wife's like, well, I have the phone in case the kids call. I'm like, honey, the kids ain't calling. They're ecstatic we're going out. They're celebrating. There's going to be a party here in 10 minutes. They're not calling you other than to check to see when we're coming home. And by the way, when your kids call you when you're out on date night to see how things are going, that means there's a party going on.
Yeah,
and they're trying to get themselves some leeway about when they need to break that party up. But anyway, I tell my wife, honey, you got your phone? Yes. I want to pay attention to you and catch up. When we go out on Friday night and Saturday night, I don't take that phone. We go out for lunch on Sunday, I don't take that phone. When I go out for dinner with my family, I don't take the phone. Critical. It's everything.
Yeah. I remember watching a interview with Simon Sinek said the same exact
it's everything. Thing. And you know why? Because if you take that phone, you know you're going to the bathroom, you know you're looking underneath the table, and what you do is you're saying to your spouse, I got some other things that are just equally, if not more important than you. Yep. And I think that when you're an entrepreneur and you're really entrenched in what you're doing, you're not easy to deal with and talk to because your mind's going a million miles an hour most of the time. But my wife will tolerate it. My wife will tolerate talking to me a couple of days a week and know that I basically didn't listen. Or I didn't remember what she even said. I mean, we're all guilty of it. But she knows that on Friday and Saturday, the important stuff, she's going to have my undivided attention for 3 or 4 hours to share what's going on with us, our family, with her. She knows when we go out for our lunches on the weekend, I'm not taking the phone. She has my undivided attention to tell me about money she wants to spend, things she wants to do for the kids. If you can't give yourself 6 to 8 hours a week of undivided attention for the people that you love and why you're working so hard for, I don't know, man. Something's wrong. I mean, who's calling you on Friday night that can't wait till you get home from date night? That, you know, on a Friday night from 7 to 10 or Saturday from 7 to 10, who's calling you that's that important? What you got to read. And if they call and you can, listen, there are times I go out, my wife's saying, I'm in the middle of something. I'm on 24/7 right now. I can't, now I don't want to blow off our date, but I just want you to know I'm going to be looking at my phone. I'm going to be checking in. I'm only going to be half here. So I tell her, I give her the respect. And I think that's a very important part of your relationships is giving people notice and respect and not taking that for granted. Like the email 3 days before you go away on vacation. Absolutely. Think about how many people do that. Very few.
Very few. One of the things that you talked
about. Some good
about,
gold nuggets in this conversation.
There's
you
some
got me
great
fired
ones.
up. Let's go.
So one of the things that you said that I absolutely loved is this idea, right, about what the entrepreneurial mindset is, because I think a lot of times when you're talking about, you said, you know, bosses are really worried about having their reps work from home and people working from home. And a lot of times that's because we haven't done a really good job of educating salespeople or educating employees how to be entrepreneurs, how to think about themselves as bringing real value to a conversation and real value to what they do. So I know you've written about it a little bit, and I know we've talked about, you know, significant success, extraordinary. You know, what are some other things, key components that you think make up a really great entrepreneur? Because I think more and more we're going to see teams and organizations move towards this work from home environment for a million different reasons. We're going to see a lot more Zoom calls in our future. We're going to see a lot more reliance on utilizing social to educate with people. So again, that's just me tossing some stuff out. But, you know, as you start thinking about going forward and start thinking about how do we empower our salespeople to be entrepreneurs and have that entrepreneurial mindset, what do you think are some of those key components to that?
Well, by the way, on the Zoom thing, especially for the older people, you know, if you think, like just like in any meeting, like if you think you're just going to get a Zoom call and your people listening and not multitasking, you better start thinking of some creative stuff to do. And I've been trying to talk a lot of my relationships, you know, bringing an athlete on for a few minutes, yep. You know, get your dog in your lap and say, look, I want to start this conversation with the smartest person I know. You got, you know, getting the backdrop changed. I mean, you're going to have to get creative now with your Zoom calls, just like you get creative when you're having sales meetings. So don't take for granted just because you get a Zoom call and everybody's sitting in their shorts and their jammies and underwear that you're going to be productive. But here's the thing. Let me just sum up this conversation for a minute here. And anybody out there listening that is trying to do more, trying to do better, trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to sell more, then this is for you. It doesn't really matter where you are at this point. It doesn't matter. What matters is whether you want to accept it. I know it's been tough, couple months. I know, and it has been tough. It has been. But do you want to accept it or not? Because your level of acceptance and having a high level of non-acceptance is the key to my success, and it's the key to anyone's success, is if you're not going to put up with the shit anymore, whether it's a relationship you have with someone, whether it's the job you have and it's not paying you enough, if that's what's dragging you down, draw the line. And if you're not willing to accept it, only then, with high levels of non-acceptance, can that bring you to a point to do something about it. And then you get into commitment, purpose, and passion. It starts with non-acceptance. You know, I was so poor growing up, and you come up with a million excuses. My father left, divorced when I was 4. I mean, I could just go on and on with all the excuses. Poor woe's me. My mom was overweight, single mother, wah, 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 wah. But at the end of the day, I didn't get up saying, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do. Somebody should come and help me. We got this virus. The government should come and help me. No. I'm not going to accept this. And I'm going to figure something out, because this is not acceptable to me. I'm not going to get up and watch the news all day, scratch my butt, and eat freaking Doritos all day. I'm not going to do it. And until you have a high level of non-acceptance, then not much is going to happen. And if you want to accept where you are, then there's a good reason why you are where you are. To me, no matter what much money I was making, not making, how big a house, whatever, I've always been able to maintain the underdog status and always been able to maintain a high level of non-acceptance. No matter how good I was doing, I always thought we could do better and do more. Why not? And here's the reason. Why are we all here? Why? I mean, think about it. Like, if you're not getting up motivated in the morning for your family, for you, for your company, well, then do it for this reason. There are thousands of species on this planet. Dogs, mice, rats, fish, birds, owls, tigers, lions, elephants. Not one of those species can improve. Not one of these species can make this planet better. Not one of these species can adjust, can adapt, can deal with pressure, can deal with all of a sudden something wrong, except for humans. You're never going to wake up in the morning, my friend, and a dog's going to be in the corner and fed itself, walked itself, and is reading the newspaper. You're not going to look over to your fish tank and have the goldfish doing a little backflip and a breaststroke. Okay, there is no animal. The elephant eats 17 hours a day, poops a good amount of those hours, and maybe once in a while, hopefully during that day or the next, has sex. And that elephant's been around thousands of years. That elephant's not getting it better, not having any improvement on the environment other than doing what it does. Human beings, though, can improve, can adapt. We can deal with pressure. We can put ourselves under immersed pressure. So the first thing you want to say is, hey, I'm not going to accept where I'm at. And the second thing is, when somebody comes, oh, I'm feeling a lot of pressure. Good, good, good. Because that means you're ready to grow. If you're feeling some stress and pressure, good. When was the last time you grew and got better? When you weren't feeling stress and pressure? Think about it.
Never.
Think about the luck we have, not only being humans, but the fact that what part of the country and part of the world we're living in, the fact that we can make a difference, the fact that we do have a voice, the fact that we can decide to make something better. So the reason why we're here is to adapt to the situations that are thrown at us. Not all of them are good. The question is, what are you going to do about it? So when you go to work, and maybe this is just part of the process, because ultimately I look at the success I've had in business, which just gives me the right and gives me the empowerment and the strength to go make a bigger difference in the world. And as far as helping people and helping this place better than when I found it. That's the game. Yep. Is how can I help others? How can I do more for others? How can I make this place better? And it starts with figuring out how you can go make your workplace better, how you can make your family better. Because that's the whole game. That's why we're here. Now, if you need my motivational talk and read a couple of my motivational books, so be it. And by the way, to add on just a little bit of the sprinkles, because you always need some seasoning to what I just said, you may need to go find some hostile. Remember that underdog mindset. Get a little hostile. Get a little bit pissed off about the people that questioned you, the people that said you were no good, the people that didn't want you in their college, the girls that dumped you, the guys that dumped you, the friends that said you weren't cool enough to hang out with them. You know, all those people, that boss who fired you, said you weren't smart enough or good enough, the boss that didn't give you the raise, all the people that question you, I got a list of them in my closet. And just in case I'm lacking some motivation, that helps me keep my hostile mindset. just to remind them that I'm not that stupid kid that you thought I was. I wasn't that kid that shouldn't go to college. Yeah, you may have made a mistake on that. Maybe you misunderstood. That's the hostile underdog mindset that I always want to keep. My soul is my connection to God. My soul has faith. My faith is about me being a good person, being an equal human being that's on this planet, to be a good person and a person that is worthy of anything and everything anyone else is. My mindset, though, is the underdog. And these two are kind of connected. The underdog is saying, Brandon, they don't think you could do it. They're doubting you. This entrepreneurial idea, they're questioning. They think it's a stupid idea. They don't think you should really write a book. They don't think it will sell. And you may use your soul to make sure that gives you the confidence, but you never want to be stressful. If you're confident in your ability, you're confident in your strategy, and that's important. You're confident in your ability. You need to be confident in your strategy. You're not doing a sprint. It's a marathon, and you're confident in God or a higher power. You have a strong faith that if you do good and you put out good, you're going to get good. So people, I asked this question on my Facebook the other day. If you had one thing to ask God, what would you ask? And I think like the best question you can ask is like, how can I do more good? How can I do more good? Because if you do good, you feel good, and you'll get that good. Helping people, by the way, is not a burden. It's an opportunity that will lead you to sheer joy. So if you're feeling a little bored and you're feeling a little down, to fill yourself, forget yourself. Go figure out how you can help someone. Bring some cookies over to the homeless shelter. Donate $10 to a food bank. Go buy some groceries for somebody who can't go out in this particular scenario. Find something good that you could do for someone. And you'll feel better, and you'll be on your way to success. Those are all the ingredients and all the things you could do to become extraordinary. It's not easy. It's not simple. But it starts with one thing. Non-acceptance. And run the marathon.
First off, I have written so many things down that you just said in that rant. That was incredible. But I think one of the things that I think reps need to feel empowered about is we aren't selling widgets, right? Like a lot of the things that we talk about helping people can be selling them tickets. That's the beauty of what we have as a product and what we get to sell. You know, I sold executive consulting research before I got into tickets. And so people wonder why, I bounce out of bed wanting to sell people tickets, wanting to get people in the stadium. It's not an ego thing. Sure, I love to see a full stadium, but more than anything else, I love to see the faces on the people who come into the stadium, who purchase the tickets, the father that are there with their best games. And I think a lot of times we think very tactically about what we sell. We think very much about the tickets. And I think this goes back to what we talked about.
Think about what you do for a living. And if it's just a transactional living, then realize, that there's not gonna be a lot written on your tombstone.
No.
Understand that, and I get that. But most people don't look at the big picture of what they actually do for a living. And when you short yourself and you're playing small, the result's going to be small. Yeah.
And again, like I said, I think it's so important that you change that mindset about what we provide to people and the opportunities that we have when we talk to people, because, sports is such an incredibly powerful way to, as you said earlier, bring families together to be able to have dialogue and conversation.
I got you going, man.
See something that never happened before. Like exactly. I actually use in when I do my sales trainings, I was at the Aaron Boone home run game. And I tell people the moment in that game, the Aaron Boone home run game was like first pitch gone. Everyone was like, wait, what just happened? Coming out of that inning. But the one that I tell people the most was when Posada hits the bloop single to center. Like, I just remember that moment when 56,000 people in old Yankee Stadium are just,
yeah.
And the ball lands, Bernie scores,
crazy moment
off Pedro. The old Yankee Stadium is just shaking in this moment. And that is what sports is, right? Like, you're providing an opportunity for people to be there when something great happens. Because even if you're selling a Wednesday night game in the middle of the summer, game 91 on a baseball schedule, game 22 on a soccer
moments that matter.
Nobody's going there to not see the top play on Sports Center that day. And so allowing them to understand that and live in that moment and understand that's what they're walking into. I've sold a lot of soccer. There's a lot of 0-0 games in soccer, but there's also some of the most incredible moments that you'll find in sports that occur in soccer because those games are 0-0, because those games end 1-0. And it's finding that emotional component to be able to connect from a sales point is so important when we sell our product. True. And yet we get so informational about it. It's embarrassing sometimes to our industry and what other people have to sell. Other people have to sell those widgets. And there are people that are selling those widgets that are insanely passionate about those specific widgets. And when we can't rise to that in sports, which is something that's innately passionate, we do such a disservice to what our product is and what our industry is.
It's true.
And then the other thing you said in there that I loved was, I think a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, and, I've talked about, getting baptized again just a couple of years ago. But I think one of the important things for me, from a faith standpoint, and you talked about, feeling stress and feeling pressure and is accountability, right? Like waking up every day with accountability to God, to your family, to yourself. Can you talk a little bit about, and again, so gracious with your time. Can you talk a little bit about what accountability means to everything you just talked about? Because I think that was the underlying phrase of what you were just talking about. And I think
the accountability just goes side by side with the non-acceptance. And
yes.
For me, I was 10 years old, and I'll tell you a quick story. I got called up to the front of the class, and my teacher, Mel Kerper, PS 215, I lived at 539 Kings Highway over a Glock kosher butcher. And my wake up, my alarm clock was in, a Glock kosher butcher. They kill the chickens in the butcher shop. So every morning, killing the chickens. Not an easy childhood, but I'll leave the. But so the guy gives me an envelope of money. He says, "I want you to buy some new clothes. We took a collection around the school for you." I said, "How do you know I need new clothes?" He says, "You're wearing the same pants for 3 weeks in a row." I said, "How do you know I've been wearing the same pants for 3 weeks in a row?" I was just a kid. I didn't know that I was poor or anything. You don't know. Yep. He said, "Well, you have a rip in the right knee." I went home. I was crying. I was upset. I told my mother, like, "Are we really poor? Do we not have anything?" My mother's like, "Oh, you're just in between sizes. No big deal." So I went back to my room, and I was like, went into my mother's room about 3 hours. I said, "Mom, I think it's a tough situation we're in. I'm going to go get a job on Saturday. Now I'm 10. I have kids. Like, I can get my 10-year-old to come down, have breakfast, be dressed in the morning. That's a win."
Yep.
6 o'clock on Saturday morning, I'm out in the street, ready to go, start looking for work. I'm ready to go. And about 4 o'clock that afternoon, I found my first job, Freddie the Fruit Man. And I was delivering fruit and vegetables and stocking fruit and vegetables at $1.50 an hour. And the reason I tell that story is because basically I went into my mother's room and I said, "Look, you don't have to worry about me anymore. I will pay for my clothes and food and some stuff. If I have extra money, I'll give it to the family." Now, I think it's a little young for a 10-year-old to have that burden on him, maybe not. But remember, stress and pressure, what it does for you.
Yep.
When you have a high level of non-acceptance and stress and pressure, we can adapt. So here it is, a 10-year-old going out on his own in the middle of Brooklyn, walking up and down, finding a job. Would you let your kid do that today? But at the end of the day, look where that took me. You think I wake up in the morning trying to figure out how to make money? When you have that mindset, when I go out, I'm not coming back till I have a job. But I think the important thing is that at 10 years old, I basically made a declaration that I was going to be accountable for what I needed, and that I wasn't going to use the fact that we didn't have a lot of money, that my father died at a young age and all that. I was going to use that as an excuse. I was going to be accountable. And a lot of times people's story and their past, they use as an excuse and a crutch, and their past dictates their future. And you got to be careful with that. And I think when you make that declaration, it takes a lot of people a long time sometimes to make that declaration that my past and stuff that happened with my family or at a particular situation, back when I was a kid, I'm not going to, that happened, and I'm going to recognize it. I'm going to deal with it. And if need be, you're going to go to therapy, but I'm not going to let that dictate my future. And at 10, I was not going to let my poverty and the fact that I had no money, no clothes, no food dictate my future, because I said, I'm not accepting that. And boom, I never stopped working since I'm 10. I'm 60, so I'm 50 years in the workforce. I don't even think twice about it. And I'm not angry about it. I made that declaration. Nobody forced me to go out and do that. And that's another thing, like, make your decisions, live with your decisions, deal with it. Blaming other people, what? Like, I worked 50 years. I would have liked a couple more breaks in there, but I'm taking those breaks now.
Yeah.
So I think accountability is about drawing the line and basically saying, regardless of what's happened, regardless of this or that, I'm not putting up where I'm at right now. And I'm going to get highly committed to doing something about it.
Well, I
can.
Yeah, I think there's two types of people, right? There's people that run towards stress and pressure, and there's people that run away from stress and pressure. And I think those decisions that you make,
think about what running away from stress and pressure is. Running away from growth and the opportunity to actually get better and to grow. Think about what those people are doing. They're actually running the wrong direction not only run, they're sprinting the wrong direction enthusiastically.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. It's in sales, you have to get no's to get yeses. You have to get rejected to understand what you need to improve.
No question.
Like if you're running away from that level of accountability or those level of results, then there's no.
And by the way, just to interrupt you for a sec, sometimes you suck. I mean, sometimes you just, what you're doing and how you're doing it isn't that good. And you have to recognize that and own that too.
Yeah, I'm on probably like the 12th version of myself when it comes to my training. And
exactly.
I ask in every one of my sales trainings, what resonated, like what worked from the sales training. And a lot of what I'm looking for isn't necessarily like all the check marks next to the specific things that worked. I'm actually looking to see, what did nobody mention? What were takeaways that people didn't have? Because then I have to take a look, even if I really like that piece of sales training, right? I have to take a look at that and say, you know what? That just isn't resonating. That isn't connecting. That's actually wasting people's time. And it's just vanity for me because I like it, that I have to start thinking about that and taking stock of it. I mean, one of my small examples.
Again, with your sales training, finding out, even with the people you're training, what they really want out of this. So one of the things 100%. I do when I do sales training is I say, look, all the bullshit aside, I know your boss is standing there, but tell me what the real deal is. What is it that's going to be your wow? What is it that you really want? Like this one woman's like, I want a house on the beach. I want a tall, dark, handsome guy. And I only want to work 20 hours a week. Okay. All right. Now we got that on the table. Let's talk about how you can expedite that and execute that. And that's a big part of where I think a lot of sales trainers sometimes neglect to do it. They know, employees know why you're there, to make more sales and motivate your people. But I go and I tell people up front, I'm not here to help your manager make more sales. I'm here to find out what's important to you and what you really want to get out of this. Yep. And then I'm going to help you figure it out, which is all going to come around and be good for your boss too.
There's been some really cool stats about the
different, right?
100%. I think like there's been a lot of stats that I like to throw around the website because I'm really proud of the content that's been created. But the one that I like the most is, in just a little over 2 years, we've had 850 people, sales reps in sports, right into the site requesting content, right? Because a lot of times, a lot of what their teams are doing are using the same sales training that they used in 1985 that just gotten passed down over the years, and a lot of those reps just don't feel heard.
Yeah.
And they need that outlet, and they need that conversation. So my last question for you.
All right, last question because I got to run here.
Yeah, same. This one's really important for me because I believe that this is really critical. So I know that you have a background when you started in the service industry, hotels, restaurants. Same with me. I was a bartender at Marriott's when I was right out of college. What do you think about the service experience and how that can help salespeople, and what the important takeaways that you had from the service experience was? Because I talk about this in every sales training and how critical I believe that is to my formation.
Well, it's become, it's two sides to that story. It's becoming very hard, to give good service and find people that want to serve. And it's also even harder and harder for people to find people that want it.
Yep.
I mean, when you talk to high-end businesses that are trying to service their clients, one of their biggest complaints, they can't get their clients on the phone. There's nothing they can do for them. I mean, I hear it time and time again. So you got to be really creative to give value and to give service. And just because somebody neglects to take advantage of your service doesn't mean you should stop. It just needs to be more creative, and you need to dig deeper. But I'll say this last line is my favorite line, and people know that work for me. The fortune's in the follow-up. And when somebody asks you for a favor, you got to be able to take that favor and be able to be entrenched in that favor the same way if you were asking for it. Because I always look at it as a gratitude thing. So when somebody asks me for a favor, my wife's like, I don't know, why are you doing that for that person? I'm like, A, because I can, and B, because why wouldn't I? Yeah. And that's how you build relationships, by not only doing favors for people, by following up, even on the hard favors, and getting it done. And I think that a lot of times what bothers me is when I call back for a favor and I got to remind the person 3 times that they did it. Even if you don't have the answer, the fortune's in the follow-up. And by the way, I'm working on your situation. I'm working on trying to find that person you're looking for, whatever it is. And if you're not willing to do that kind of stuff, then you're probably headed to mediocrity.
Well, listen, I have literally taken notes all over the page.
Hopefully this was helpful, man. It was all, listen, I get a lot of joy out of knowing that somebody got something out of it. Somebody reaches out to me on LinkedIn or on Facebook and they say, Brandon, you know, I learned this one thing from one of your talks. Like I got this recap the other day from somebody. I'm gonna start crying. It's like, man, you completely changed my month around, man. I'm looking at everything differently after this talk. I'm like, all right, great. And that's what I live for, you know, to make a difference and help people. And I'm hoping the books help. So please get a free book. Hopefully put the link on the site, but, you know, go to CollectibleXchange, get a free book. And I answer all my questions myself as we got into the social media, you know, so message me on LinkedIn is always a good vehicle, or wherever, or if you go to BrandonSteiner.com.
Yeah. Oh, this has been incredible. Like I said, I've loved this. I appreciate it. You've been very generous.
Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Anytime, man. There's so much to talk about, so little time, but we could go do it again in a few months and completely different curriculum. We could focus on something.
Well, when this is all over back east, maybe we can do it in person after a game of basketball.
Absolutely. Or maybe we could do a conference together. You know, we do a sales thing. We'll do it together. That would be
awesome.
Fun to get on stage together.
I would love it. Thanks, Brandon.
All right, brother. Have a safe day. Stay safe. Stay smart.
You too.